Today's lesson is on solving multi-step equations. First, we're going to solve a two-step equation. So for number 1, we have negative 3z plus 1 equals 7. In our problem, we are adding 1. The opposite of adding 1 would be to subtract 1. So we're going to first start out by subtracting 1 from each side. Plus 1 minus 1 would be 0. So we have negative 3z on the left-hand side, and 7 minus 1 is 6, so we have 6 on the right-hand side. Now we are multiplying negative 3 times z, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so I just have z on the left-hand side, and that would be equal to 6 divided by negative 3, which is negative 2. So z equals negative 2. And now for number 2, I have 1 5/10 times x plus 15 equals 24. In my problem, I am adding 15. So my first step would be to subtract 15 from both sides, because I want to do the opposite or the inverse. Plus 15 minus 15 is 0. So I have 1 5/10 times x equals, and 24 minus 15 is 9. Now I'm taking 1 5/10 times x, and the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by 1 5/10. 1 5/10 divided by 1 5/10 is 1, so I'm just left with x on the left-hand side, and that would be equal to 9 divided by 1 5/10. So now I'm going to divide 9 by 1 5/10. I need to make 1 5/10 a whole number, so I move my decimal to the right one place. So now 9 has to have its decimal moved to the right one place as well, and now it becomes 90. So my new problem is 90 divided by 15. And 15 goes into 90 6 times, and 6 times 15 is 90. When I subtract, I'm left with nothing, so my answer is 6. So x equals 6. Now I'm going to solve an equation by combining like terms. So for number 3, I have negative 4n minus 8n plus 17 equals 23. So the first thing I need to do is combine my like terms. So I need to combine negative 4n minus 8n. So in order to do that, I'm going to have negative 4 minus 8, and that's times n, and then I have plus 17 equals 23. Negative 4 minus 8 would be the same thing as negative 4 plus negative 8, and negative 4 plus negative 8 is negative 12. So I have negative 12n plus 17 equals 23. Now this looks like the problems that we just did. So if I'm adding 17 in the problem, I'm going to subtract 17 to solve. So I have negative 12n equals, and 23 minus 17 is 6. On the left-hand side, I just had negative 12n because 17 minus 17 is 0. Now I need to divide both sides by negative 12, because in my problem I have negative 12 times n, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by negative 12. Negative 12 divided by negative 12 is 1, so I have n equals, and 6 divided by negative 12. I could do this in a couple of ways. I could just simplify it as a fraction. So 6/12 would be 1/2. So 6 over negative 12 would be negative 1/2. I could also have this as negative 0.5, which would be negative 5/10. And now for number 4, I have 8x minus 6x minus 25 equals negative 35. So first I need to combine my like terms. So I need to combine 8x minus 6x. So I'm going to have 8 minus 6, and that answer is times x minus 25 equals negative 35. And 8 minus 6 is 2, so I have 2x minus 25 equals negative 35. And now, since I'm subtracting 25 in my problem, I need to add 25 to solve, because I'm doing the opposite or the inverse. So I add 25 to both sides. Negative 25 plus 25 is 0, so I have 2x equals negative 35 plus 25 is negative 10. So I have 2x equals negative 10, and now I am multiplying 2 times x, and the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I have just x, and negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So x equals negative 5. Now I'm going to solve an equation using the distributive property. So for number 5, I have negative 3 times the quantity x plus 2 plus 5x equals negative 9. So first I need to use the distributive property, which tells me I need to multiply the negative 3 times x and the negative 3 times 2. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 2 would be negative 6. So I could write that as either plus a negative 6, or I could just write minus 6. And then I have plus 5x equals negative 9. Now I need to combine my like terms, because I have negative 3x and I have plus 5x. So if I rewrite this, I have negative 3x plus 5x minus 6 equals negative 9. Notice that the sign that was in front follows with the number. So we have a negative 6 or a minus 6, and that minus sign is still in front of our 6. And in front of 5x, I had plus, and that plus sign is still in front of 5x. Now I can combine my like terms, so I have negative 3 plus 5, and that's going to be then times x, minus 6 equals negative 9. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2, so I have 2x minus 6 equals negative 9. And since I'm subtracting 6 in the problem, I'm going to add 6 to solve. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0, so I just have 2x. And that would be equal to negative 9 plus 6, and negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3. And now I have 2x, which would be 2 times x. And the opposite of multiplication is division, so I will divide both sides by 2. So x is going to equal negative 3 halves. This can also be written as negative 1 and 1/2, or you could even say this is negative 1.5, which is negative 1 and 5/10. And now for number 6, I have 2 times the quantity 1 minus 5x plus 4 equals negative 8. So I need to use the distributive property, so I'm going to have 2 times 1 and then 2 times negative 5x. So 2 times 1 is going to be 2. And then I have minus, we can think of that as being a negative, so 2 times negative 5x would be negative 10x, or we could say minus 10x. And then I have plus 4 equals negative 8. Now I need to combine my like terms. On this one, the 2 and the 4 would be my like terms. So I have 2, and then my plus sign is going to follow with the 4, so plus 4. My minus would then follow with negative, or with 10x, so I have minus 10x. And that equals negative 8. 2 plus 4 is 6, so I have 6 minus 10x equals negative 8. And now I need to get this 6 to the other side. Since I have no sign in front of it, it is a positive 6, so the opposite would be to subtract 6 from both sides. 6 minus 6 is 0, so I have negative 10x equals, and negative 8 minus 6 would be negative 8 plus negative 6, which would be negative 14. I have negative 10x, which would be negative 10 times x, and the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by negative 10. On the left-hand side, negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1, so I just have x. And on the right-hand side, I have negative 14 divided by negative 10. A negative divided by negative is positive, so I have 14 tenths. And 14 tenths could then be simplified to 1 and 4 tenths, which is 1 and 2 fifths.